This is my TNA Bound for Glory 2010 pay-per-view predictions. Pay-per-view is live tonight, exclusively on pay-per-view. As far as the way this pay-per-view looks going in, as far as the card for the pay-per-view, it doesn't look like it's a bad card, because there's a few matches that could possibly be good. Now, the problem I have with this pay-per-view is TNA builds this pay-per-view as their version of WrestleMania, TNA's version of WrestleMania, and it's supposed to have, that big event feel to it. It doesn't. This event going into it, especially the one huge problem was the build-up to the pay-per-view. I thought the build-up to the pay-per-view is pretty much very lackluster, and the go-home show this past Thursday's Impact was not a good way to, on a go-home show, you're supposed to make fans say, I need to go out of my way, I need to go out of my way and purchase this event. And when watching that live Impact this past Thursday, I did not even ask myself one time, I need to go out of my way and purchase this, or more or less I was just asking myself, what is TNA doing here that actually thinks that people need to go out their way and purchase it? Because it doesn't look like it's going to be a bad show, because you got the X Division title match with Jay Lethal versus Douglas Williams. That could be good. The Machineguns versus Generation Me should be an excellent match. EV 2.0 and Fourtune, I really care less about the feud between those two, but the Lethal Lockdown stipulation probably is going to help it out a lot, but even that right there kind of hurts it, because it takes away the meaning of Lethal Lockdown and the significance of the match, since it's supposed to be your staple for the Lockdown pay-per-view in April. It's not like you should do it 2 times a year. It's like back in the NWA/WCW, you would not see them do 2 War Games in the same exact year. They only do one to have that match actually have a lot of meaning to it. Like I said, it's not going to be bad. I just think they don't need to do 2 Lethal Lockdowns in the same exact year. The world title match, I'm not really sure how that's going to be. It could be very good, or it could just be decent at best. It's going to be depending on how Anderson plays, how he does in the match, because Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle, we know they can work great with each other. Anderson and Angle, they've had that great match back at Lockdown, but that was really their only good match. Every other match they've had against each other, I wasn't really into that much. Jeff Hardy and Anderson seem like they have a little chemistry with each other, so it could possibly be a good match. And Angle's, saying this is going to be a match of the year candidate, and it's going to be an excellent match, which if Kurt Angle's going into this match saying that, he's going to try his damnness to actually do that. So possibly he could do that. And really on here, other than probably the handicap match and the match where Orlando Jordan and Eric Young are taking on Inc., those are really the only matches I think are going to be really bad. Even the women's match might be decent. But the first matchup will be Jay Lethal versus Douglas Williams for the X Division Championship. This will be a good way to start the pay-per-view. You'll probably see some good back-and-forth action with these two. And Jay Lethal will retain his X Division Championship. I don't think he's going to lose it, because first he lost it 3 weeks. He just won it 3 weeks ago. Then on a house show he lost to Mason Red, which was really pointless. Then he won it back the next night. So I don't think they would have him lose it already yet again, and just have him have it for a little bit. And because Douglas Williams, he got really boring as X Division champion, so it'd be best to have Lethal retain, and I do see him retaining his X Division championship. Next matchup will be the Four Corners Knockouts title match. This is Madison Rayne versus Velvet Sky versus Terror versus Angelina Love, with the special referee being Mickie James. And that's another thing I had to discuss real quick about this past Thursday's Impact with Mickie James' debut, and it was a very bad way to debut her. I know it wasn't really a debut, since in the past she was in TNA, so it's really a re-debut. But back when she was in TNA, it was the weekly pay-per-views. How many people that are actually watching TNA nowadays were watching TNA back then? I've been watching TNA ever since the beginning of their first weekly pay-per-view back in 2002. But how many fans actually watched it back then? So they should have made it seem like, whoa, Mickie James is in this company now, and they didn't make it seem like anything special at all. Like, oh, Mickie James is here. Nothing really huge here. And hopefully they do some good stuff with Mickie James. She could do really good in the Knockouts division. I just hope they do better with her than what they did with Tara, a.k.a. Victoria, because they've done a terrible job with her. Hopefully they don't follow the same line with Mickie James. This women's match might be decent. Now, if they book it in certain ways, it could turn into a complete clusterfuck and train wreck. But I think it might be at least a decent women's match. And as far as who's going to win this match, I probably will go with Angelina Love just retaining the championship just because I don't see the title changing. I don't see Madison Rayne on Velvet Sky winning it and Tara winning it. I wouldn't mind seeing it because then if Tara wins it, maybe they could do Tara versus Mickie James, which will be good to see. But as far as that, you know, Tara's been champion before, and they've done a terrible job every time. So I guess just Angelina Love will retain. Could be a decent women's match, but if they book it in some ways where they overbook it and stuff, it could turn into a train wreck. But like I said, I think it might be at least a decent women's match. The next matchup is a rematch of a match that took place on Impact where no one really gave two shits about it on Impact. Now they're putting it on pay-per-view. Now, with this pay-per-view, I don't know if they're going to have a live pre-show, but if they do have a live pre-show, this is the match they need to have take place on the live pre-show just to get done with the match, to have it take place there if they do have a live pre-show. And that's Inc. versus Eric Young and Orlando Jordan. A match that's very pointless. A rematch for a match that took place on Impact. No one cared about why would they do it on pay-per-view. Just a waste of time on here. And the time given for this match will be given to another match, which they'll probably cut some time back from probably a match that probably needs more time, but they're not going to do that. They'll have this match on here. I guess with it, Orlando Jordan and Eric Young will win the match. Next matchup will be Generation Me versus the Machineguns for the TNA Tag Team Championships. Now, within this, you know, the Machineguns, they haven't had the tag titles for a long time, but I think at this, the Generation Me will become the new tag team champions. I think that would be a good thing to do. And have them continue the feud. Maybe have a feud where they switch the titles back and forth a few times. That's pretty good when they do it in certain tag team feuds. And I think these two could do it real good. Have them have a feud for a few more months with the tag team belts, and that could be something great. This should be probably, barring, you know, how good the main event is, Generation Me versus Most Machineguns probably will be the match of the night. Should be a great match and a great tag team match. Like I said, I see Generation Me becoming the new tag team champions. Then the next matchup is the handicap match with Sting, Kevin Nash, and the Pope versus Jeff Jarrett and Samoa Joe. Hogan was going to be on the other side, but obviously due to him recently having surgery, he could not be participating in this match. Now, could they go the route of having someone else be the third person on there? Possibly. I don't know. Yeah, I think one thing. I think this show that's taking place tonight is actually taking place in the same exact arena that the NWO was born back in 1996. So, knowing Russo, they'll probably will do something with a third man in here. Someone turns or something like that. It's going to be a really pointless match right here. And the worst thing about this is Samoa Joe and the Pope, two great young guys that could be doing a whole lot better things, and they're stuck in this match. Samoa Joe could be doing a whole lot better stuff. And as far as the Pope, this really pointless heel turn, a guy that was really over with the crowd, now they turned him heel, which they'll probably turn him back to face real soon. They might even do something here where maybe he turns on Kevin Nash and Sting, but who knows? I guess with it, Jeff Jarrett and Samoa Joe will win this handicap match, a match no one cares about. Even the Pope and Samoa Joe being in there, them two could work good with each other in the match, but a handicap match in this match right here I could really care less about. Then the next match is Fourtune versus EV2 in the Lethal Lockdown match. Now, with the Lethal Lockdown stipulation, this is really going to help a lot of the former ECW guys. They can do some good stuff in here. And, you know, guys like AJ Styles, Kazarian, and Beer Money and Matt Morgan, they can do some good stuff in here as well. So I think this is going to be a good match. The only problem I have with this match is, like I said earlier, it takes away the meaning of Lethal Lockdown and the significance of the match when you do it yet again on another pay-per-view, where this is pretty much supposed to be your staple and one of your selling points for your Lockdown pay-per-view. And when people know, well, it's going to happen yet again at another pay-per-view down the line at Bound for Glory, it takes away the significance of the match. So that's really the only problem I have with the match. As far as the match itself, I think it might be a good match. I'm not saying it's going to be a great match, but it could possibly be a good match. And with it, I'd say Fortune's going to win it. Then the next match is RBD versus Abyss in the Monsters Ball match. Abyss is going to reveal who they are. and not sure who they are and who that's gonna be. Now with this kind of TNA kind of booked themselves in a corner with this match in some ways in my eyes, because Abyss has to win this match. Not only, I think they added a stipulation that Abyss loses this match, he is done with TNA. So obviously that right there shows you who's going to win it. Abyss is going to win this match, unless they do some type of swerve where he loses this match or something happens and Eric Bischoff reinstates him or something. But Abyss is going to win this match, and obviously since he's going to be revealing who they are, which don't know who they are going to be, obviously it's either going to be a complete swerve where it maybe ends up being Fourtune all along, Eric Bischoff, Dixie Carter, or something like that, or most likely it's probably going to be someone that isn't in the company, some former WWE stars coming in and being with them. Don't know who it's going to be. I can't think of anything who it's going to be. Like I said, it could possibly just be a complete swerve all along and be Fourtune, but we'll have to wait and see who it's going to be. So with that, Abyss has to win this match. But the one thing that kind of hurts is RVD's supposed to be getting his revenge here, returning after Abyss pretty much bloodied him backstage, and that's where they stripped the title from him. And RVD's returning his pay-per-view match right here. Kind of hurts him as well, because if he loses this match, kind of hurts him on his return, which in my eyes, they should have not had RVD return until after Bound for Glory, because since the title was vacated, why is RVD back before the new champions even crowned? That's the one problem I really have right there. Now, these two had a pretty entertaining match at the whole effing show, which you're probably going to see the same type of match here. Maybe a little better, so it's not going to be a bad match, but it's going to be a match we've already seen before. And another thing, adding to it, that since we've already seen it before, a lot of things on this pay-per-view doesn't really differentiate itself from other pay-per-views. It really makes it like, why would people go out their way and purchase this, or why is TNA thinking you have to go out your way and purchase this, since everything else is stuff you'd see on other pay-per-views. So with this, I said Abyss is going to win just because he's going to reveal who they are, and with that, and obviously the thing where I think if he loses this match, he's done with TNA. So right there, Abyss has to win this match. Then the next matchup is the main event. This is Mr. Anderson versus Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle for the TNA Championship. This is going to be to crown the new TNA champion, since the title is vacated at this time. Kurt Angle, like I said, is really saying he's going to go out here and perform a great match, which Kurt Angle says that he's going to try his best to do it, and he says it's going to be a match of the year candidate and that type of match, which he possibly could put on. Angle and Jeff Hardy had a great match at last month's pay-per-view. Now, Anderson being involved in this match is the one thing that kind of hurts it in my eyes. I would prefer if this was just another match. We see Kurt Angle versus Jeff Hardy. Anderson and Hardy seem to have some pretty good chemistry, and Anderson and Kurt Angle had that great cage match back at Lockdown, so maybe it's going to be good, but the Anderson within the match kind of hurts in my eyes. I'm just hoping he doesn't win the match with it, since just like the Abyss match, they're pretty much giving away who's going to win the match beforehand, where Kurt Angle has to win this match, or he has to retire, unless they do a swerve where, oh, well, he didn't get pins, Jeff Hardy gets pinned, or Anderson gets pinned, so he doesn't get pinned, so he doesn't have to quit. So they could do that, but I don't think they'll do that. Kurt Angle's going to win this match, become the new TNA champion, which already seemed like they were going to go that route anyway, with him going through the rankings right before Bound for Glory, before they had to do the thing, vacate the title, where they did the storyline with RVD, vacating the title, and they were obviously leading to him becoming champion at Bound for Glory. So Kurt Angle will become the new TNA champion. And like I said, the way this pay-per-view looks on paper and the card for the event, doesn't look like it's going to be a bad pay-per-view, but the one thing that hurts it is, what really separates this pay-per-view from other pay-per-views this year from TNA. It really just looks like another TNA pay-per-view, which, when you're building a pay-per-view as this is our version of WrestleMania, our biggest show of the year, and it really doesn't look that much different than any other pay-per-view, what is going to make people say, well, this is a pay-per-view that already, people are going to say, I need to order this, because, hey, this is TNA's biggest pay-per-view of the year. They're probably going to have some good stuff on it, which, like I said, they are going to have some good stuff on it, but it kind of hurts it, because, WWE, they've been around for almost 5 decades, over 50 years. WrestleMania has been going on for over 25 years, and that name is pretty much synonymous with wrestling. So they can get away with having a subpar build and pretty much a subpar, build up and card for a WrestleMania and stuff like that, because they can get away with it. They've been around for so long. The name WrestleMania is synonymous with wrestling, and fans are going to buy it just based on the name WrestleMania. Whereas TNA, they need to actually build stuff up in a way where fans think they need to go out their way and purchase it, not just based on, well, this is Bound for Glory and we're saying it's our biggest event of the year. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a bad event. It's just really nothing on here differentiates itself or makes itself seem different than any other TNA pay-per-view. And the build-up to it, especially the go-home show this past Thursday, they did a very poor job of trying to sell the pay-per-view. Because I kept asking myself when I was watching that live Impact, why is TNA thinking I'm going to go out my way and purchase this? Or what's the reason why I should order this pay-per-view? And when you're asking yourself that, instead of saying, whoa, this stuff's actually good, and this stuff I need to go out my way and purchase it, something is really wrong right there. And like I said, don't think it's going to be a bad event. Just the build-up to it has been pretty lackluster, and the sell for it and the build-up going into the pay-per-view, the go-home show this past Thursday was very, very weak as far as trying to sell the pay-per-view. So, yeah, that's it for my TNA Bound for Glory 2010 pay-per-view predictions. Peace.